This is my review of Dr. Stone, Chapter 102, Perseus, Ship of Science. So before I get in, I just want to say I was definitely wrong, and I am so glad I was. Last week, anyone who saw it knows I was so confused about why there's two separate tribes, why the astronauts would have separated when they were such good friends way back then. Never even once considering that they might have separated generations after that. And that adds just so much to this story, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, it wasn't the astronauts themselves who split up, but it was their descendants, their great whatever grandchildren. And that just makes so much more sense. Not only because there's no reason why the astronauts would have left each other, but because it explains so much. Why are so many members of the village so strong and so good at boats? It's because they are descendants of the strongest of the strong. Those who were capable of crossing the sea on great boats and getting to Japan just as the stories foretold. Just as the Hundred Tales told them to do. The Hundred Tales said, "Go to Japan," because Senku's father wanted them to find his son. The Hundred Tales told them to go to Japan because Senku's father wanted them to find his son. He knew that someday, somehow, his son would find a way to free himself from the stone. And when he did, he wanted his descendants to be there to back him up, to give him a hand, and that's just so freaking amazing. It does also make me wonder, though, what are those who were left behind like? What are the Treasure Island folks like? Are they more book smart? Are they more like geniuses? Are they going to be someone who can almost tackle Senku's mind from a... Well, probably not tackle his mind, given his vast knowledge, but their raw intellect could be greater than his, or equal to his. It's entirely possible. They have some geniuses there. And one guy even said, what if the Y-Man is on the island? And that could be very likely. Don't forget, they have the treasure chest. They have all the minerals, materials, gold, all that stuff they need to build and advance science. I mean, the village's, best magician, sorcerer, whatever you want to call him, before Senku showed up, he did great stuff just with what he was able to find in the rocks and all that. They had the actual processed material, the best of the best they could use. I mean, who knows what they could have done with that? Of course, entirely possible that's the sacred sphere, and no one but the prophesized one is allowed to touch it. Oh, God. I mean, if this was my luck, they'd probably be all cannibals who practice human sacrifice. But, yeah, So I'm very excited to see them, see if there's a difference. And I mean, they said, no, it's probably not the Y-Man. He probably doesn't live there, because if he did, I mean, why wouldn't he be, expanding outward, going to other islands? Why wouldn't we have seen hide or hair of him by now? But I do think it's possible that the Y-Man might be on the island. I would think that'd be a very interesting twist to this whole thing. I mean, in a sense, it'd be a step back, because we'd be, losing out on this great mystery of the Y-Man, who's the source of the petrification. But, on the other hand, it would be just an absolute genius of the Stone Age here helping Senku out. I think it'd be very interesting to see what he and his tribe have built on their own. I'm hoping it's something advanced. It's entirely possible they're all dead already. Yeah, moving on. So the chief was certainly not happy that he hid this from him for so long, but I get it. I mean, I wish he told Senku earlier, but the village isn't so, open about accepting outsiders. Even Senku, they wouldn't even let him in the village until the tournament, and that was because that was, law. They just all assumed he was evil, he was an outsider, he had to be stopped, so I understand why Soyuz kept it as a secret, and I think the chief did too. Love this line from Senku. That simple thirst for knowledge is what drives all science. I think that was just badass. He's not wrong, We're all trying to learn new things, to find new answers, and our search often leads to new explanations, new discoveries about the world. And I think a great example is the fact they're trying to find the petrification beam in order to save the life of their friend, I guess you can call him, after he was stabbed. That thirst for that knowledge, that search for the petrification beam, let them building a freaking ship of science, radar, GPS. All of that amazing stuff was only created here and now because they're trying to get to the Y-Man. They're trying to save their friend. They're trying to get the answer to that petrification beam. It led to a dozen other advances in science. Same thing with the moon landing. They decided to go up to the moon, and because of that, they invented 30 different things that have altered humanity again and again. Velcro, cell phones, other stuff. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a scientist. I don't actually know. Alright, so moving on. They're basically told that even though he spent days and days and days trying to row his boat back to the island, they'll just do it in a few hours. Which I just love. Though I am really confused about this guy because I get it makes a lot more sense now, but I'm still confused about his backstory. He basically said they found me as a baby, or they found me when I was really young, so I assumed he had no memories of the old island, but he still remembered his name, so he couldn't have been that young. But if he wasn't that young, how did they convince people he was their kid? I mean, are they just like, explorers who go out for years at a time trying to find stuff or do something, and they're like, oh yeah, while I was gone for those 5 years, I had a 6-year-old kid. Nothing weird about that whatsoever. Otherwise, it just does not make any sense, and I don't think they're going to come back to it, but I really would like an explanation down the road. Anyway, then we get to see the ship, and this thing is absolutely freaking amazing. It has searchlights, antenna with radar and GPS, fishing spots, sleeping quarters that have 5 stacked, place to keep all their goats, a greenhouse, place for the prisoners, a bunch of supplies stored down under, a bunch of timber they're storing if they need to build something, and a freaking mobile science lab with an elevator under it to push it up in case they need to take it on land, which I really do love the look of this mobile science center. It's so cool, so advanced, it's just so amazing. So anyway, then they have their seasickness cured. And then they hit a storm. So everyone's freaking out, almost being thrown overboard, panicking. And Ryu is shocked, like, no. They're all like, what's wrong? Are we gonna die? This tea is amazing. Oh, Ryu. He's just so calmly, in the middle of the storm. He's like, nah, I handle these storms all the time. We'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And then Senku runs in panicking, and they're all like, no, something bad's happening, oh my god! He's like, no, I just want to sneak up on the island without them seeing us. Really, so that's his big plan. He's going to use the radar, GPS, spotlights, everything, to take a look at the island nation, and hopefully they won't notice them because of the storm, but I think they're still going to notice them. I can't imagine they aren't going to see this big-ass ship. I mean, even if they keep pretty far away, I kind of feel like they're going to see them. And Soyuz is in tears as we see the shape of the island. Treasure Island. I think it's kind of interesting that we can't actually see the island. Like, we can see just like its dark outline. I wonder if that's because once we actually see a clear view of the island, it'll give us like an idea of what to expect. Like, all the trees are cut down, there's big buildings and like hundreds of people living there. Or if it's just like all burned down and there's nothing there, just scorched earth. I'm really not sure what to expect here. I just noticed the mini speedboats attached to the back. I hadn't noticed that before. That's funny. So yeah, what's next? I have no freaking clue whatsoever. I mean, really, this island, this mystery, what's awaiting them is just, I have no idea. And like I said, there could be a super advanced civilization there that's almost Senku's level, or a dead civilization, disease, famine, fire, whatever, pneumonia or tuberculosis or whatever the heck it was, killed some of the early survivors, so it might have attacked, Treasure Island too. And it's entirely possible that Soyuz only managed to, Superman situation here. They pushed him into the open water and basically said, son, you must survive for all of us. It would be interesting if, he wasn't the only one they sent out. He was just the one that, actually made his way to the other people. There could be, like, a whole bunch of other survivors out there on various islands trying to survive all on their own. Or in small groups. That could certainly be interesting. So, yeah. I mean, I've said, either super advanced or they're all dead. Entirely possible, just, an average civilization. I do feel like they're going to be more book savvy than the main village we've seen so far, simply because they didn't lose anything. I mean, the group that went out, they were just a small group. They didn't have all the knowledge, and obviously things were lost from the old village. They didn't even know there was an old village. So these people who are direct descendants, who haven't left this spot in thousands of years, I have a feeling they're going to know more about the past, about Senku, about the astronauts, all that. I feel like their knowledge wouldn't have been lost as much. Another big thing, another issue I had, which I'm glad they did this twist, I felt like the village was just too stupid. Like, they were too far away. I know they have the 100 Tails and all that, but it just felt like they lost a lot of information over the years. I just did not know how that happened. Now it makes a lot more sense, they split up, so they lost a lot of that when they left. And there was no one to correct the false ideas the few people who left had. Plus, the few people left weren't the smartest people. They were, the strongest people. The ones who could actually survive the trip over. But that does leave one question. The shamaness. I said when Senku was being told the tales that there should have been more than one, backups and all that. I wonder if that's what happened. I wonder if there was originally like 2 or 3 or 4 shamanists, and there are still some left on the island. One went with them, the other 3 or 4, whatever, just stayed behind on Treasure Island to keep the stories going for everyone there. I'm not sure, but I cannot wait for next week to even just to get a small peek at this island and have some of my questions answered would be amazing. So, until then, share, like, and subscribe. Let me know what you think is going to be on this island. Super advanced, all dead, cannibals. And until next time,
peace.